the plate. Hear that crowd roar. The Angels minor league reports keeping score. 66 are swinging down in Inland Empire. Dust Devils heating up, they're reaching higher. Rocket City Trash Pandas, they're coming through. Salt Lake Bees buzzing, making their move. Dominic Lorenz breaking down the place. Halos in the infield each and every day. Prospects climbing, chasing that dream. From the minors to the majors, part of the team. Fastballs flying, big hits we seek. Catch it all on the Angels minor league report each week. Oh, each week. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome on in to another episode of the Angels Minor League Report, here with Dominic Lorenz from Catella Chronicles on the Halos in the Infield Network. Last week, we talked about this show, how it's going to be dedicated 100% to the upcoming MLB draft that's happening this Sunday, July 13th in Atlanta, Georgia. Angels have the number 2 pick. I promised you a guest, and here I deliver. Rob in the house today, making his debut on the show. Rob, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Always with great insight. I nickname you on the network here. You're like the universal utility filler guy. Todd's not there. You fill in. No one's podcasting. Someone needs a helper along with the show. And you're there with all great insight. So you're the guy I wanted for this episode in particular.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. And as we record the show, the Angels are getting their cheeks clapped 10-1 to the Texas Rangers as we record this. So I'm just going to put it out there. It's Todd's fault. He's at the game tonight.
Thanks a lot, Todd.
It out there. So we're going to try to put a spin on some positivity here for the Angels today. And before I said a moment ago, 100% dedicated to the draft. I lied. 95%. I got to, for having Rob on for the first show here today, I got to get his quick takes on what's going on in the Angels farm system. Because again, this is the Angels Minor League Report. And before we start, cheers to our sponsors, 714 Tickets, Bruheim, the OC Dugout, and Max Market Pros for joining us here in the 2025 season. So, Rob, it's not pretty in the farm system, but let's get your take. You got the Salt Lake Bees, AAA level, 33-55. Not great. You go down to AA. Rocket City last week finally erased a 16-game losing streak, 27-54. Tri-City Dust Devils, the best of the bunch, at 40-41. They're competing at least for a second half title right now in the Northwest League. And then you have the Inland Empire 66ers, who finished worst in the Cal League in the first half and are currently 24-57. So through about 81 games now, more than halfway through the minor league season, what is your take on this 30th ranked farm system? Because I know it's not going to be good.
It's a broken down system, like you've already said, right? The records say it themselves. It's guys who've been moved for early on in years. Edward Cuero, Kai Bush, a whole bunch of pieces like that. We've moved to make some trades and to get Randall Gertruck, to get Luis Giolito, to get CJ Crone at the time. And it was already a depleted system at that. We drafted bad in the first round, per se, but we haven't hit in the later rounds to build this system back up. So it's a mixture of a whole bunch of things, and it's just a mixture of not having actual major leaguers at the same time too. Because Christian Moore, yes, I know he's hurt, but should he really be in the major leagues right now? The same thing can be said about Ohapi right now. That dude's struggling completely. I think he's brought up too early. Only 2 people right now who I think deserve to be in the league that probably still really should be in the minors in any other organization would be Neto and Nolan Shanwell. But other than those guys really wouldn't have the tools to be that good in other organizations per se. Put them on the Yankees or put them on the Dodgers. Would they be in the major leagues today? Even on the Cubs, something like that. They would probably be close, but not yet. But since we're a depleted system in that, we don't have pitching in the system. We don't have any hitting. We're just kind of scraping by with a JD Davis type guy, the Sean Andersons that we get out there. But yet I feel like we swing and miss on all these guys like Caldonaro. You talked about that. That guy who was released by the Reds, perfect fit for minor league baseball. Let's see if he can fit in there, grab him up, and if he can help the team out in the major leagues, let's do it. But no, we let these guys go. We get a guy like a Nicky Lopez last year, he moved up and down. They're just gone. The youth movement is not here just yet for us. But what do you do besides trading the whole team away? And I would include Mike Trout, and which I don't think is a bad thing right now. If you can trade him, he wouldn't give you the same like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, like Otani would have. But you got to
Yeah,
start somewhere.
yeah, the value I think in that conversation, that could be an episode within itself about what do the Angels do with Mike Trout at this point of the just based on the organization of if we're going to go 100% youth movement with Neto and Shawnoel as the figmentation of what's going to be next for this franchise in its history, what do you get in return? And when you look at the guys, the filler guys that really have not worked out, and even in theory, when these guys are signed and we see these announcements, we're like, who, what? This is not, you're trying to squeeze out as much baseball life. And unfortunately, the Angels organization is not. We've seen them test the waters with the Lincecums, the Cahills, the Matt Harvey.
Hmm.
It never works out for our fearless leader, Artie Moreno.
No.
But and the biggest one throughout this minor league system that you touched on a little bit is jumping these guys so quick to the major league level. And then the even more so negative side of it all is toying with the emotions. And we see it tonight, right before we hit record on this episode, with Sam Aldegheri getting called up from Double-A. He's getting shelled right now, 5 earned runs in an inning and a third, if not more, if I look down at my phone. We saw Victor Medeiros last night, even though he came out with a clean frame, but it could have been much worse. Caden
Yeah.
Dana a few times. Christian Moore maybe is the short exception because he was getting regular playing time, but still, I don't consider that as much. How do you feel about this yo-yoing back and forth? Because this doesn't do well for confidence purposes.
It's just inconsistent with the developmental philosophy of the organization as well. It's like, are you developing these guys? Or are you rushing them, fast tracking them into the major leagues to sink or swim? And then you have a Joe Adele in your hands, a guy who's trying to find his way, a guy who has the tools to be great, but you keep every time he does something wrong, you pigeonhole him, send him back down, or mess with him mentally, and he doesn't know what to do, what to work on. But so, where's our development? What's our philosophy? We don't have that. We're probably one of the worst, if not the worst, franchise I think in investing in the minor league systems itself. We always talk about we don't invest in scouting very much. We're very low on that. We have lack of depth as it is. So you can't underinvest in these certain things such as scouting and development itself too. I mean, how long has it been since we had a new weight room this year? We
Yeah,
were outdated by 20 years.
yeah, that sounds
We
about
have a
right.
we have a new pitching lab going on with more technology put in, but all these other teams already had that. They're 5 years ahead of us. You go on and I hate to use it, foul territory said it, but it's true. You go to the Dodgers, they all get iPads.
Yep.
They get a whole system of what to do, what to eat, their workouts they need to do, technology what you need to work on, your scouting reports, everything in and out. They give you everything to be successful franchise. But yeah,
And the
Artie Moreno's here, not can't even spend a dime on scouting.
no, and the funny thing is, some people would argue the Dodgers are doing all that, and the Angels have a healthier pitching rotation than the Dodgers this year. So does that equate? Then it then brings up the conversation about injuries and protocols and how much are we pushing these minor league guys to the max? Because I've seen it before here at the lower levels in single A, coming
Mhm.
from the minor league baseball world for a long time. The Quakes, the Dodgers affiliate here in the Cal League, they had a theory the last couple of years where starting pitchers went no more than 3 innings. They were cut off, and almost every day was bullpen day. These guys end up staying at the same level for about a year and a half to 2 straight seasons, and there's that buildup and ramp up process. Other organizations, Angels, it's almost feels like survival of the fittest. You'll figure it out and you tell us what you think instead of coaches and training staff saying, no, let's work as a team, not you tell us what you believe we
Yeah,
should be doing. It's almost like who was the one player that used to do that a lot? Zach Greinke was kind of known for that. I'm going to tell you what I want, and that's it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that to me, that doesn't sound like a recipe for success. Maybe it works for a player, maybe 1 or 2 starts in a row because he's feeling, velocity's up, he's feeling good. But that's a very short-term mindset, not a long-term career mindset.
No, it is absolutely. It's just a lack of player developmental strategy on what you're going to do with somebody overall and where you want to go as an organization. But yet still, we get a reliever, we turn him to a starter. We have a starter, turning him into relievers. We're all over the place. You know what I mean? There's
Yep.
no the strategy's not there. And it's I don't see how we really can help ourselves without revamping the whole system. But to revamp it, it's really not in just the coaches itself. It's actually getting rid of the owner and getting somebody in here who gives an F, right?
Yeah.
And the story. I hate to say it that way, but it's absolutely true because you can't be last in minor league system, last in scouting report, last in or one of the worst training facilities there, under investing in certain things because it all adds up quick. I mean, yeah, the Dodgers have more arm injuries than we do right now, but those guys that have the arm injuries, are they through the system itself? Blast now, Snell, and all these guys. No, they're from outside.
Yeah. It's a
They're on their way
completely
in.
it's a completely different mindset that they have to transition. Like, Glasnow and Snell were in the Tampa Bay organization for a while, and you go through these different avenues. And it is a little bit of a culture shock if you're a player that's going from a lower tiered scouting department and training facility to somebody like the Dodgers.
Yeah,
In general, if we are going to make a quick little spin on it and say Rob's number one positive, who is one player in the Angels minor league farm system right now that has not come up to the major league level this year, that you have high hopes for, and you like, even if development's not helping them, you like where they're at right now?
George Clausen. The guy goes out there and he's dealing. He's a gamer. The stats may not always be there itself too, but he's competing every single pitch. That's what you want to see from this guy there, right? You're not expecting too much out of him because everyone wants to rush them all up. Aldagary's up now. People will want Cade and Dana, but this guy, he's kind of the piece that you don't want to bring up and expose too soon, in my opinion. I kind of keep him down there, let him work on his stuff, let him get better. I don't want him to come in the major leagues and throw out of the bullpen just to get chilled or be a little bit out of your element because it's not what you're used to. I want him to develop his system his way and then come up to major leagues as a starter when he's ready.
Yeah, and if that's 2025, if it worked out that way by some sham of a miracle, which I don't agree should happen, but if it's
Yeah.
this year, if it's next year, I think probably more so 2027 would be the earliest window that I would approve George Clausen maybe coming to the big league level. I think, he was just traded from the Phillies organization last year. I
Hmm.
think there's still that getting to know you period and kind of figuring things out in the right direction. And he
Yes.
hasn't been, as you said, the ace quality player this year, if you just look at the numbers. You know me, I'm not a wins and loss kind of guy. I like ERA, whip. I like some of the in-depth numbers.
Yeah.
And there are starts where he has those intangibles that you kind of nod your head and say, oh, well, that could play.
Yeah, there's something there. You can tell there's something there, but he's not going to find like he's in the minors for a reason, right? He's
Yeah.
not going to be an ace. He's not going to be a Paul Skeens type guy. We're not expecting that from him. But can he be number two, number three starter later on? Yeah, absolutely. But you got to let him build up to be that guy.
Yeah. Again, it's hard when this Angels organization is in a, one game at 500, then you go down and you're back and forth and you're trying to find the right remedy at some point,
Hmm.
and you want that quick fix now. And unfortunately, the way that they're going about it with bringing up these minor league guys and serving them as bullpen and emergency hack roles, there's no need for that. Like, there's got to be a better theory. I get it. Maybe they're seeing something that we're not. I find that highly unlikely because we're pretty smart human beings here, and if
Yeah.
we can see it, don't tell me the baseball aficionados can't see it as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's just odd options. That's honestly what it is, right?
Yeah, you try to find a match that can start a little bit of a blaze and start some rhythm right before the All-Star break, and however the Angels got to do it, I guess they're just going to throw everything but the kitchen sink to find a way to try to squeeze into that wild card spot. And as we talk about pitching here on the show, now we get to the time of the show where we really brought Robin for this show. It is MLB Draft Week, Sunday, July 13th. Atlanta, Georgia, the host of the All-Star game, the Braves. It's going down on Sunday evening, and the Angels are in a unique spot, the number 2 pick overall, which the Angels have not had this high of a pick in a very, very, very long time. And right away, there's already drama. No, it's not, are we taking a college armor, a high school armor, an infielder? It has nothing to do with the Angels. Washington Nationals just fired their GM and manager 1 week before the draft. And guess what? They have the number 1 pick in the draft. That's, to me, a little shocking to do it a week before the draft. How does that, affect the Angels' mindset? Because I feel the Washington Nationals now are a 100% wild card with what they're doing with that number 1 pick?
I mean, I don't think it affects the Angels' mindset so much. I think it's forced them to kind of broaden out and start having workouts with everybody and interviewing them a little bit more. But even the Nationals itself, we know they already know who they're going to draft. I'm sure it's been talked about through the organization as a whole. It wasn't just with the GM, the assistant GM's there, the scouting reports there, the department there, right? Player personnel. There's somebody there who they already know who their guy is. They're not releasing it, but I don't think it's as big of a deal that we're making of it or everyone else is making of it. Oh my God, they fired him. Because let's be honest, Martinez wasn't going to be there much longer, anyways. He was never
No.
going to see this draft pick in the Major League Baseball the way they were going, unless he turned it around, which was not happening, especially with the young talent they have.
Mhm.
Um, Rizzo himself, too. Yeah, he has the final say overall, but at the same time, a lot of ownership comes in. The assistant GM, they all do the work for them, give him all the data, and then they decide off that. He probably makes the overall decision, yes, but I'm sure he runs it by his checks and balances first.
Yeah, just because you get to submit the card at the end of the day does not mean that it's your 100% sole responsibility. And even though the GM gets to fall on the sword at the end of the day and take the blame from
Yeah,
a whole group effort, it was a little shocking to me, in my opinion. I think not Dave Martinez, but I think the GM just with the closeness of the draft. But is it a
yeah,
situation, if you're a Nationals fan, GM wanted this, ownership wanted this, there was a clash and adios, or just a
yeah.
combination? I think it could be a combination of just everything that's gone on in their, at the major league level with them. If you are predicting, and the Nationals, as you said, should know who they have number 1, what would your guess be on who is the number 1 pick in this year's draft?
I still think it's Holiday. I do. That's a pure hitter right there, man. Look at his brother, his dad. It's a long lineage of that too, and they've proven it. Yes, I understand they're from Oklahoma, Stillwater, Oklahoma, not a big pool overall in playing high school, but in the travel ball and everything else, I don't. They need pitching as well, so don't get me wrong. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be a shock, but I don't. I'm not 100% on Anderson.
Okay. Well,
I'm not gonna.
this is exactly what I was going for, because I'm still under the same kind of representation that Ethan Holiday is probably going to be the number 1 pick. What would
Yeah.
then what would drop me to the floor a little bit in question if they buck that trend? Everything
Mhm.
seems to be that would kind of formulate that left side of the infield with them, with Abrams at short and Holiday in the future. They have James Wood. Who knows with the new GM if they could score some free agents, figure things out in that regard.
Yeah.
The Angels, we all know, I think 99.9 out of 100 people would say the Angels need pitching, and that's going to be what the Angels should go for. Here are my 3 top, I think the 3 pitchers that the most surrounding news about them with the Angels. It's been Cade Anderson of LSU.
Hmm.
You have Liam Doyle of Tennessee.
Hmm.
And someone that's close to me, I've called a couple of his games here at the high school level. If you want to go for a high school arm, you have Seth Hernandez from Corona High School. So let's dive in on those 3. And as you mentioned, you're not sold on Cade Anderson. Tell me why you're not sold on the lefty 21-year-old.
He just had Tommy John out of high school, right? He's 3 years past. His command is an issue for me overall. Um, his breaking stuff's not quite there on it too. His slider is a great pitch with his fastball, complements his fastball very well, but I don't like him overthrowing it. Outside of that, his curveball's not great. His changeup's not great on that too. That's where his command goes iffy on it. I'm not very high on a guy like this who's already had Tommy John, especially with the Angels organization that has, like we just said, they have lack of system resources for
Health, safety,
rehabilitation. Yeah,
health, safety, development, protection. Insert adjective there, and you're fine.
yeah. And it's just for me, he could have been good if this Tommy John didn't happen in high school and he waited that first year of college. So what did he have? 2 years under his belt?
Roughly about 2 years under his belt.
So for me, there's still a lot more I need to see. Yeah, he was spectacular. Don't get me wrong. He did great this year. Obviously, they went and won the national title, but everyone wants to compare him to Paul Skeens. He's not. I don't
Yeah.
see it. I really don't see it. Paul Skeens was a man amongst boys there.
Yeah.
Not that he can't be good. He just reminds me a lot of a Reed Detmers type guy who is going to be good in the major leagues, but he's not going to be a starter for you.
And for people watching the show or listening, Cade Anderson, some information about him. His scouting grades. Again, these grades are from 20 to 80. So put that into perspective. Fastball is currently ranked as a 60, curveball 55, slider 55, changeup 60. His control is rated at a 50. He's an overall rated pitcher at 60. His accolades, he allowed 1 run in 17 innings and 2 starts in this year's current College World Series. And then he led Division I baseball with 180 strikeouts in 119 innings with 12 wins with LSU this year. Average fastball velocity sits between 92, 94, touching 97, and his curveball dipping into the upper 70s register with some high spin rates and a mid-80s slider. So if you don't look at him and you just kind of read the scouting report, of course, it's going to tout him up to another level. To me, I agree with you on the comp to Reed Detmers, and the Tommy John is the one big glaring issue that does scare me a little bit, especially with how the Angels farm system runs itself. The positive, I would say, to Anderson, and I think this goes in general with the Angels theory on a lot of things, you have a top-tier college pitcher. They like, and they always have been, liking the college-ready arms because you know the Angels, Reed Detmers, Christian Moore, all these guys, they'll make that hop very quickly because they believe those years in college, especially with a terrific program like LSU, prepares you in that sense. That is one thing about Anderson that I do appreciate, but the intangibles that you mentioned, I am skeptical a little bit. There would have to be a lot to prove that first year in the Angels farm system, you would have to silence everybody rather quickly in order to kind of put these deficits, what could be major deficits, to the wayside. My opinion, I think.
So I didn't know his changeup was ranked that high. I would have given his changeup like 50. They have it as 60?
They have his changeup at a 60 at the moment.
And his curveball, I didn't think it was a 65. You said 65?
55 on the curve.
55? I would have had like 40, 45. I didn't think it was that good. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad, but it's not great. It's not Paul Skeens type. It's not what was that, Hagen Smith last year, who was a top 5 pick. It's not that type. Who's the guy that pitched last year with them, too? The righty. Second pick overall last year in the draft. Chase Burns. It's not Chase.
Cincinnati.
It's not Chase Burns type stuff. It's close. He's close, but he's not there.
No, the reason why they have ranked his changeup in this sense is mid-80s. It has a fade to sink that has become a true weapon the more often he utilizes his changeup. They're saying the more he uses it, the more it gets stronger. So that could be a little more of an outlook and a little bit of an outreach, depending on how you look at it. But they give him a quick arm, athletic build. He is a 6'2" strike thrower.
Yeah.
I like a pitcher. This is my theory that I've learned from minor league baseball, a pitching coach that I have when I was working with the Lake Elsinore Storm in the Padres system, Pete Zamora. He said, as a pitcher, you want to be a shark. You do not want to nibble. You want to attack. You want to throw as many strikes as possible. Trust your defense. And if you get the strikeouts that happen, fantastic. But you still want to throw, what are you going to solve by throwing 8 consecutive pitches down and away? You could have the best slider in the world, but if you can't locate it, it's crap.
Yeah, absolutely. I was always told that too when I was pitching and stuff. Hey, there's 8 guys behind you for a reason.
Yep.
Right. There is. They're not there just to be there. They're there for a reason.
And if you look at it from Cade Anderson, and let's shift our focus over now to another collegiate pitcher that I don't want to say out of nowhere, but even before Cade Anderson began to thrive and get the media attention at the College World Series, this name was starting to float around more. I would say this is probably one of the first names that floated around with the Angels. And it's Liam Doyle, the southpaw out of Tennessee, Mr. Volunteer, 21 years old, 6'2", 220-pounder. And this is a kid, and I'll give you the numbers first before I'll let Rob dive into it, is fastball 75 rated, slider 55, cutter 55, splitter 55. They give him a 50 rank on control and a 55 overall stature as a pitcher. And in 2025, SEC Conference Pitcher of the Year, led D1 in strikeout rate with 15.4 per 9 innings. And after transferring into Tennessee, I believe he was originally a Mississippi guy. He's now kind of put himself into the top 5 ranking system, 91, 94 his sophomore year, now operating in the mid to upper 90s and has touched 100 multiple times this year. Again, fastball slider, cutter, splitter. Rob, what do you got for me on Liam Doyle?
I like him. Another reliever to me, though. I don't see him going past over those 100 innings. I like his stuff, though. You're absolutely right. That fastball's electric. His frame in itself too. I like how he carries himself and his presence on the mound. He's very Ben Joyce-esque in that sense, where they're very confident in themselves. And I do love a guy from Tennessee. I think that coach does a great job with that program too. There's
Yeah.
grit behind there. They make them work at all times. They know what it means to put in work in the weight room, while running too in the off season. They are very accountable of themselves. His off-speed stuff is very good too. His cutter is good. Don't get me wrong. I love that cut. I think the cutter is really good. I'm surprised. What was the cutter ranked?
Cutter is currently ranked as 55.
I think that's low. I honestly think cutter, his fastball is great, but the cutter complements the fastball even more and helps that split finger as well too.
Yeah,
That
they have his cutter ranked, his tier pitches, his fastball, slider, cutter, splitter, top to bottom as his best pitches. So they have his cutter as his third best pitch in his arsenal.
So no, I think a guy like this who throws hard, a split finger we see with Otani. I hate to say it, brings up bad things, but it's true. With Otani, I think that split finger and a fastball like that, it really is the same motion, right? To a hitter, all of a sudden the bottom drops out. So I think that's the way to go for me, at least for pitching wise. I love that. His heavy fastball usage though too can get you hurt. It's good enough right now to get major leaguers out. I do worry long term if it ever dips down a little bit, you might get a little issue there, right? Because it's flat. Fastball
Yeah.
is very flat in
When you
itself
get
too.
when you get that flat fastball, then danger is approaching, more so than not.
Yeah, his stuff, and then when he gets fatigued, his stuff does fade a little bit, right? He doesn't have that sharp cut on the cutter anymore. He loses the bite and the slider, the split finger in itself too. Not that he shows it, but his arm motion kind of slows down a little bit. Gets a little bit more in the dirt for me. So he's a reliever at that too. I'm very surprised there's one guy that you're not really talking about, and I'm shocked in college. Why actually this is the guy I really want, but we can talk about it later. I think it could be a very big arm for the Angels in itself too. A left-handed pitcher in college as well too.
Oh, are we looking at the number 4 overall guy in Jamie Arnold?
Jamie Arnold. I'm very high on Jamie Arnold. He doesn't have the
Let's go for
fastball.
it. Talk to me about it.
So for him, Jamie Arnold, I think he's a middle of the road guy for us too. He's not gonna be your ace, but he's gonna get these innings. Right? Him and shoot, Doyle? Was it Doyle?
Yeah, Doyle out of Tennessee.
Doyle, yes. Him and Doyle. They're close. They're close. I do like the way the Tennessee guy works a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie, but I do think that Arnold is the guy who gives him to be a starter, who's gonna carry you a little bit more, who's gonna eat up those innings. And then his four-seam fastball is solid. He gets that lower slot on it. He's lefty, so I don't know. I'm out of the screen there. You can't see my arms off. But
Yeah,
he
you
gets
get a
that
little
lower
lefty
slot
and just
on
kind of
that,
brings it down a little bit.
and he can drop it down when he has to, and he gets some great pitch. It's Tyler Anderson-esque in a way,
Okay.
but with higher miles per hour and a little bit better command.
And this is a guy, 21 years old, 6'1", 188 pounds, Florida State Seminole, 50 ranked fastball, 65 on the slider. They have his slider as his best pitch. Changeup of
Mhm.
50, control 55, overall rated as a 55. And this year, Golden Spikes Award semifinalist, also finished the year with a sub-3 ERA, 159 strikeouts to only 26 walks, and overall 4 hitless innings and 7 Ks for Team USA in their international tournament that they had with Chinese Taipei over summer for collegiate athletes. So he's been in high-ranked ball games. He has the velocity, 94 to 95, can touch 97, 88 to 92 when he was in high school. You're seeing the trajectory go up in the right direction. A lot of comps have him compared to Chris Sale a little bit with the
Mhm.
arm slot and some of the materialistic side of how he kind of delivers the baseball. For me, I would say probably Jamie Arnold was maybe when the initial draft picks were coming out and the mock drafts, you saw Arnold very high. He kind of dipped a little bit low to the
He did.
7 to 10 spot, and now he's kind of back up. As of right now, top 10 prospects according to MLB Pipeline. You have Ethan Holiday at 1. They have Cade Anderson slotted at 2. A guy we're going to talk about in just a few moments, Seth Hernandez at 3. Jamie Arnold at 4. Shortstop Eli Willits at 5. Avi Arquette out of Oregon State, the shortstop at 6. Billy Carlson, the shortstop from Corona at 7. Liam Doyle at 8. JoJo Parker, another shortstop at 9. We have 5 shortstops in the top 10. And then Kyson Witherspoon, a right-hander, at number 10. So, again, shortstops, pitchers are kind of always been the trend nowadays in this
Yeah.
draft. And, taking one hat off and putting your GM hat on, college or high school, regardless of position, if you have the number 2 pick in the draft like the Angels, and you're an organization that can't afford to miss on this, you can't. The Angels are not going to pick inside the top 10 next year. They have 5 picks within the first, what I like to call 2.5 rounds of the draft. They have 5 picks within the first 109. Those 5 picks are going to be immensely important. And number 2 overall, you can't miss, right? There is no way you can balk.
And unfortunately, this is the year where there's a lot of questions. Whereas last couple of years, I feel like you've had a solidified number 1, you've had a solidified number 2. There wasn't too many guys comparable, but this year I feel it's a lot comparable. But for me, just knowing the Angels organization and where we currently stand, you got to go a college guy because you don't have the tools, the resources like we talked about to have a high school kid and develop him from scratch. I would love to get Seth Hernandez. I do worry he's still a kid. End of the day, you got to bulk him up. There's a lot of training to do with him because his fastball, his velo dipped a little bit there, right? When he
Yep.
played Bosco and
Yeah.
St. John Bosco, and they hammered him right there. You saw it. The kid was tired at the end of the year, so which leads me to believe the training regiment's not there for him. And when you don't have a solid training regimen in itself, too, and you're working on raw talent alone, the Angels are not the team to go to because we don't have what it takes to develop that ace. Because this kid could be great. I really think this kid can be very good. We're just not the team for him.
No, and you look at a guy like Seth Hernandez and somebody I've watched in person, called games at the high school level on 3 different occasions, and it was all last season. For a high school kid, the first word that comes to my mind, filth. This kid is nasty. He gets the job done, and he is far beyond what his age says. 19 years old, 6'4", 190 pounds, and he is all of that. He shows up at the big games, 70 rated fastball, 60 on the curve, 55 on the slider, 60 on the changeup. Control is very good. Overall, 60 rated pitcher. Now, again, California, everybody talks about high schools. Is California is better than Florida or Texas? Or you start getting into the high school debates on what competition is he really playing when Corona's beating schools within their division by the final of 24-0, or so on and so forth. It is a very different monster at the college level in comparison. Again, when you have LSU against Tennessee, it's pound for pound, probably one of the best matchups in college baseball. When you have Corona against Centennial out here in Southern California, it's not as appealing, unfortunately. It doesn't maybe widen the eyeballs open a little bit. One reason why, and this is maybe more of a chess move than anything else, I feel if the Angels don't take a Seth Hernandez, he's going to shove it up our ass for the next decade plus because the Seattle Mariners will take him and develop him properly, and we're going to vomit every time he pitches against us. It's like, do we just want to draft him so Mariners don't? Like, I know that sounds bad for a number 2 pick, but maybe it's PTSD after all these years.
It is. Granted, we have Caden Dana who's developed it. For me, it's just I think Seth Hernandez needs just a little bit more work. Some of the stuff that you can work on that's easy to fix. For me, that I saw when I watched him play a couple times was he worked backwards a lot. Right, that's a very high school thing to do. So don't worry about that. I know scouts make a big deal about it. That's fine. Major league coaches aren't going to do that. Right, they're not going to let this kid. Well, unless you're the Angels, like Al Gary was doing earlier, working backwards on 2-0 counts. But like usually that doesn't happen in the system, right? Develop the fastball. Let's get it there. His spin rates aren't there yet, and that's what worries me the most. He has that raw talent, but he needs to get better spin rates on that breaking ball because you can tell when sometimes it floats there. But luckily for him, he does throw hard enough. So when he does throw that curveball, that breaking ball, and it floats a little bit, guys are so far out in the front foot, it helped him in high school. Does that translate to the major leagues? I think he's a generational top talent here. I think you're talking about a Hunter Green when he came out of high school, right? He's pretty big, right? Got more than Royce Lewis did when he signed.
Yes.
So I think Seth Hernandez is very Hunter Green-esque about it, but he might be, if not the best guy in the past 10 years we've seen in high school.
You're
in my
right.
opinion.
I would say you're in that realm. You're
15
in that
maybe.
realm.
When was Trout
Yeah.
drafted? Yeah, I wouldn't go far. He's probably one of the better guys since Trout, and we didn't even know Trout was gonna be that good. It was just a get, right? They
Yep.
saw him. They thought Randall Grichuk's gonna be better. They drafted him first, and then drafted Trout. But Seth Hernandez, he is gonna be good. I do believe it. I just don't think he's gonna be good for the Angels because we don't have what it takes to get him there.
I would say if our farm system, if our development, just our organization was different, I think that's, get him from 19 years old out of high school, develop him the way you want to be in this farm
Yeah,
system. Totally understandable. Unfortunately, with the Angels being the Angels, you take yourself out of a potential good thing. And that's
yep.
what the Angels get in their own way. And looking at the draft order right now, just looking at those top 10 picks after talking about the top 10 prospects, Nats at 1, Angels at 2, Mariners right at our heels at 3, Rockies at 4, Cardinals 5, Pirates 6. Then you go Miami, Toronto, Cincinnati, and the White Sox. You know, the draft, it doesn't matter what sport you're in, NBA, NFL, hockey, Major League Baseball. We all know drafting is a guessing game. You never
It
are going to
is.
get it right 100% of the time. Unfortunately, when you pigeonhole yourself like an organization like the Angels, you feel the leash tightening around the neck a little bit, and you have
Hmm.
5 picks within the first 109. And knowing the Angels are just kind of here. Are we buying at the deadline? Are we selling at the deadline? Are we going to keep what we have? Or are we going to get rid of? There's always these eternal what if questions, or what is already going to finally pull the trigger on? Is it all in or no?
Yeah,
And it now is it's leaking into the draft every single year, probably more so since the year they took every single draft spot as a pitcher. That was the COVID draft in 2020,
yeah.
2021. It's ugh, it's frustrating because you're sitting there and you're saying what could be with a lot of these players. You can look up and down the Angels draft list from the last 5 years, and I would probably say 80, maybe that's a little too high. Maybe 2/3 are either not in baseball anymore or still sitting at the single A level, relatively so.
Yeah, I mean, that could be anybody, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
plenty of number one picks overall. First round, first pick overall, who never make it higher than double A, right? We see it all the
Yep.
time. So I'm not pressing so much on that with the Angels because Perry, yeah, did he have to do that? No. Did he? Yeah, but it didn't really work out for us in the end overall. But he has been hitting on some picks. And it was his
It's
last, what?
subtle. It's not when you expect it.
It's
And I think
not.
that's the thing. That's what we've learned to come to terms with Perry Manassian is everybody sees. I think the Angels, what was it? Christian Moore at 8 last year. Everybody's like, oh, you got to hit this 8 pick. And I'm going to say, thinking back on last year, I don't think Christian Moore was on any of our radars at 8.
No.
I think he was maybe late first round, early second round projection,
Hmm.
relatively speaking. And he jumps all the way inside the top 10, and we're saying, this guy's there and this guy's there, and we're willing to mortgage it on this guy. And Christian Moore, for now, injured, get well soon, that he has shown some moments of brightness being up at the ball club so far. Some nice high IQ defensive plays, came up clutch against the Red Sox with a pair of home runs. There has been some fruits of those labors from Perry Manassian. But
Hmm.
I just still come back to this fact where, and call me old school, call me maybe pressing the panic button a little bit. You have the number 2 pick, and it doesn't happen that often.
No.
Somehow, some way, you just can't. Out of everything that the Angels have done wrong in the last decade plus, I feel this year, out of any year, you just can't get it wrong.
You're right. You can't. It's a lot of pressure on it too, because it's not fair to say you can't get it wrong necessarily because plenty of teams draft the guy who's supposed to be the best one and they get it wrong. He doesn't fit the organization. He didn't end up well. There was a guy in the Nationals at Rizzo. The guy he dropped him back down in a rookie ball before he got fired. And I
Yeah.
forget who he was. The kid is an outfielder, number 5 pick overall in the draft. Was a must have guy at a high school. They took him, never made it above high A, stayed there for 3 years. He's now back in rookie ball. They're trying to reinvent his swing, but that was a miss.
Yeah.
But that kid was gonna, if they didn't pick him in 5, he was gonna go 6 or 7 at the worst. So it's a lot of pressure. They could shock us, and let's say altogether they go like a Billy Carlson
Yeah.
shortstop and say, which would be absurd to blow the opportunity to have a pitcher like this, but The Angels are going to angel, like we always say.
Is there a world, and of course there is a possibility, but is there a legitimate possibility with everything going on with the Washington Nationals, and let's say right now in this moment they're in their war room, what are we, 4, 5, 6 days away from draft day, and they're uncertain of where they're going to go. They have their options on the table, but you're getting a various of opinions coming at them, especially for their interim GM. If they balk and don't pick up Holiday, do the Angels take Holiday, or are they pitcher 100% of the way? What is there a possibility?
It's pitching 100% of the way. It has to be. And if it's not these guys we talked about, don't be surprised that Gage Wood's not the guy from Arkansas. You know what I mean? There's plenty of options out there. I think it's a pitcher. It's someone who's more major league ready, just in case the Angels make a run. I don't think it's going to happen, especially after tonight's game. This team's too hot and cold. We don't have the right leadership going on in the major league level. But you got to go pitching. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and to miss it would be absolutely horrendous for this organization as a whole.
Is not picking a pitcher a potential dagger in the back of Perry Manassian?
I think it is. Can you take a shortstop? What are you signaling to Zach Neto? You're not a long-term guy? Honestly, how old is Neto? 24?
Yeah, young. I think
So,
he's not even 25. Yeah, below 25.
so you hope to keep this guy for at least another 6 to 8 years. By that time, this pick is going to be in the major leagues, especially knowing the Angels, who you're going to
Yeah.
have, right?
You would almost have to force, if you take an infielder, regardless if it's Holiday, Willits, Arquette, Carlson, or Parker. Let's just go with those first 4 right there, or first 5, I should say. You're probably going to ask them to move to third base. And Ethan Holiday is the only one with third base experience in that case. Right there, and all of them, I believe, are all the shortstops, with the exception of the Oregon State Arquette, who's 21 years old. All of them are high school. So for them to come out of high school and go into a major league system and say, okay, everything you learned about being a shortstop, erase it from your memory. We're teaching you third base. And as we've drilled it into your guys' heads here on the broadcast so far tonight, Angels don't develop. This is not the organization to say, forget what you know. We're going to teach you something new. Teach? What the heck is that word?
Yeah. It's not it, especially with Washington out and gone. Washington's done, let's say. I think he's done. He's not coming back next year. That'd be the guy to help you in spring training, but that'd be such a short window that he's going to be there. He's not even going to be there now. So
no,
you're starting
you're going to rely on, not, in my opinion, not trusted sources within our organization to make these heavy hitter decisions, where if you do end up choosing, regardless of a pitcher or hitter, from a high school level of development, we are supposed to trust what the Angels have in this system to be Zach Neto's left side of the infield partner at some point, or do they do the battery of what they did to Taylor Ward or Matt Theis? We drafted you at one position, then we're going to try you at this position. Now we're going to go there, and then now you're going to be an outfielder again. It's more than just a confidence thing. It's just, how do you feel as a player? It almost feels like you're wanted but not wanted, but you're not trusted at what you can do. It's so many mixed emotions that, to me, I think maybe that's why sometimes that the Angels have these big dips with these high-level prospects like the Adele, like the Ward, Theis, who's not here anymore, so on and so forth.
Yeah. You can't do it to these young kids. You just can't right now. It's not you're not in the system. You're not in the right mindset as an organization to do it, and you need help immediately. So to wait 5 years for this kid to finally, hopefully get it by then, or 4 years, even that, to be 22 years old and come up, we just don't have the time.
Yep.
You can't force this down the throat. It sends a bad message across, I think, to Neto. For me, it's almost like, I know football and baseball is different. It's like Kirk Cousins. I signed you, but I'm drafting a guy to replace you.
You're replacing him with Michael Penix Jr. You're trading up and making it even worse in that case, and be like, what am I here for?
Yeah, like, okay, so I'm not the guy. So, I mean, not that Neto's weak-minded like that or is worried about that at all, but just for me, it's just a waste, like you said. You're wasting number 2 pick. We need pitching. There's plenty of pitching out there. Don't swing and miss.
Yeah, if any year was a year for really, really great pitching in this draft, definitely this is a year for really great pitching. Again, Cade Anderson, Seth Hernandez, Jamie Arnold, Liam Doyle, and the number 10 guy right now, Kyson Witherspoon, who's a 20-year-old out of Oklahoma. You have 5 really, really good ones. And again, we could go through every single 250 top prospect and say they're great in their own respect.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, to wrap, kind of encapsulate all of this, and Rob, thanks always for coming on the show. So glad to have you. I would say if you were Perry Manassi and you're taking Jamie Arnold, I think that's what we would consider here. Okay.
Yeah.
That's your personal pick. Let's go into realism. What do you think the Angels will end up doing when their name is called and they're on the clock Sunday evening and they have the number 2 pick? What do you think realistically happens?
Honestly, I do think if Ethan Holiday is first, it's going to be Cade Anderson. They're going to succumb to the pressure. Oh, he's the national champion. Oh, he led his team. Oh, this, oh, that. Yeah, but does he fit? Is he what we need? Is he unique? What's unique about him? But is a back-end starter? Do we need another back-end starter? I'm just very afraid of him being another Reed Detmers. And Sam Bachman, I like Sam Bachman a lot, but we balked on that thing. We needed a starter. We didn't need another reliever. We got another reliever. You know what I mean? It's just we're not progressing in the right direction in the starting pitching staff-wise. I'm not very big on waiting for Caden Dana for us, right? We're going to succumb to that. I don't think Caden Dana is it. I really don't. I think that's another pick that we got. He's worked out well for us so far. I trade him today if I could. And I get the guy Edward Cabrera. But to answer that, I think it's Cade Anderson. If Cade Anderson's taking first, which I highly doubt right now, because of what's going on there, then I would have to go still Jamie Arnold.
Yeah, I think the Nationals will end up playing it safe just with everything that's going on. Take Holiday, make that shore up that left side of the infield with C.J. Abrams in the future. For me, I think if the Angels were, and this is the dream scenario, I think Seth Hernandez would be the dream. If the Angels organization was where they should be at this time, Seth Hernandez, I think, develop him properly. You can make him in what you want to make him. That would be my choice. Realistically, I'm going to have to hop on the bandwagon with you. I think they'll succumb to the pressure. If Holiday's gone, next best guy off the board, LSU, all the intangibles that you mentioned. I think that's going to be the way that they go at the end of the day. They might give a little courtesy nod to Liam Doyle and kind of play into that conversation. Again, the Angels have done this before. Christian Moore was very low on the totem pole, got picked 8th overall last year. For some reason, they love taking those SEC guys, especially from Tennessee. And who knows, they could, reunite Doyle and, have the volunteer kind of thing going on in the clubhouse in the future. But I will say realistically, Perry will put Cade Anderson's name on the card come number 2 pick time on Sunday. It's just, if anything else happens, I would be shocked. But if somehow the Washington Nationals buck the trend and go pitcher, I think the Angels would go Holiday and throw everybody else after that for a loop.
Yeah. No, we agree. And by the way, when you said Arnold was Chris Sale, way better comparison than I was trying to put out there. I was putting out there Tyler Anderson, but no, you're absolutely right. It is a Chris Sale.
Hey, come on, we have Tyler Anderson. We can get Cade Anderson. We had Tim Anderson at one point. Something about the Andersons, Garrett Anderson. Maybe it's a sign in the stars that the Angels need to pick an Anderson in this sense.
Well, we just know they're not going to get Willits because Willits' dad, Reggie, used the same equipment that his son's about to use if they're going to draft him, which is going to be absolute no.
Yeah, that's going to be a little problem right there. But love to have the name recognition of former Angels, dad's son. That's kind of nice.
We missed with Guerrero. We drafted Hunter that year, and I was like, God, how are we not drafting Vladdy's kid? Vladdy's is going to be in the Hall of Fame with us one day and everything. I always thought he would, and he did it eventually, but we balked on his kid, so you balk on Willits, watch it come back to bite us in the ass.
Of course, everything bites the Angels in the ass. And now I'm thinking of a bonus question for you to kind of wrap everything up. Angels get at number 2 a pitcher. If it's Anderson, Arnold, Doyle, whoever, a college arm. Is a prospect that they currently in the Angels top 30 farm system, could they be getting ready to exit at the trade deadline? Like a Dana. like a Wolbert Urania at AA, Joel Hurtado? Is there, or Chris Cortez at high A? Is there one guy that basically college guy comes in, prospect goes out in order to get a trade at the deadline? Does that become more of a real thought process?
I think so. I think especially drafted pitcher, Caden Dane is expendable. If he's your top prospect right now, you trade him away. There's a guy, like I said, Edward Cabrera stands out, a guy with control, with major league experience, still young, um, proven. You have to package him up with something else, but yeah, I see a guy going out and more guys coming in, but proven. Because at the end of the day, a prospect is just that, a prospect. I know it's a minor league report, but we've seen so many times how many different prospects throughout the years are just prospects. They never make it to the next level, like a Pell. We always talk about all the time, Brennan Wood, Dallas McPherson, all these guys. Those guys could have gotten us Miguel Cabrera in his prime.
Adrian
But,
Beltre in his prime.
but we refuse to pull the trigger on that because, oh, they're going to be better than them. They
Hey,
weren't. They were
hey,
great in minor leagues.
we kept Jared Walsh instead of maybe throwing some money at Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, I mean, that's a local kid. That's a local dude too, right up
Yeah.
the road.
I always joke with everybody is that the Angels have the worst timing in baseball. When there's a big free agent ready to be on the market like a Freddie Freeman, somehow Jared Walsh figured it out and had an all-star year. Right
Mhm.
when the Angels needed a third baseman like an Adrian Beltre, Miguel Cabrera, Brandon Wood at AAA looked like the next Mike Trout of baseball, and it didn't happen. This year, I'm not going to try to put any negative juju on the guy, but Joe Adell's having a great year. He's found a way to kind of bounce himself back. And I know the contract is going to be creeping up in arbitration and whatever his status is. The Angels will have to come to a time. They got to make a decision, keep or go. And that will be a fun time for everybody.
Why would you say I got to knock on wood? Joe Adele, of all things, man. He's finally
Yeah.
getting it going. I'm so excited for him, but so happy for him too to get it going. But no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on that.
Timing is always the one thing that has always, betrayed the Angels at that point. And speaking of timing, Angels just lost 13-1. So see, we start this episode, we finish the episode, and we try to have some sort of a positive spin. And of course, the Angels' timing sucks that they ended on a bad note with a 13-1 loss to the Rangers. My goal was to get to 500 by the All-Star break. It's possible. They have to go now 4-1 in order to go 500 by the time of the All-Star break. Yes or no, it's going to happen.
Absolutely not. Quanowitz got a pitch.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. Versus this lineup too. Let me ask you one question then.
Let's go for it.
You're in the minor league report system. What do we need more of right now? And if you had a free trade right now, and besides the draft, because we both agree we need pitching in the draft, what does this team in the major leagues need more, and what does the minor league system need more of right now?
Oh, dear God. Honestly, I would say the major league level right now, I'm going to put pitching aside because we've kind of knocked that out of the park already. I'm going to go, a lot of people aren't going to agree with this. I'm going to say an outfielder. Taylor Ward is kind of in the middle. Joe Adell's on the rise. Mike Trout, I don't want to see him play the outfield. Let him hit. Soler's not going to be your everyday right fielder. He's doing way more than expected right now for the Angels playing defense. And as we've talked about in our internal chat, it's most of the time not pretty when Soler's out in right field. I think we can say that very nicely to him.
Yeah.
I think the Angels need a bona fide outfielder, kind of like when they had Torrey Hunter out and right and Mike Trout in his prime in center. I think you need some sort of stable force out there. Taylor Ward, the noodle arm sometimes, some questionable decision-making out there. Adell, even though he's on the rise this year, I feel his defense still needs a little tightening up. He's been better, knock on wood, but I think there's still some growing ability for him right now. So I don't know if it's a left fielder or right fielder or wherever the Angels go trade deadline-wise. I'm thinking off the top of my head who's available outfielder right now.
Mickey Moniak? That's kidding.
Hey, he's hitting in Colorado, so good for him in that regard. I'd have to do my homework. There's not a specific outfielder that comes to mind. Most of the guys that come to mind right now are infielders like, I talked about in the offseason, Nolan Arenado. Could he have been the starting third baseman this year? Or Eugenio Suarez of Arizona, does he come over to play third base? with Moncada back, I don't think the Angels maybe go in that direction. Again, you never know what can happen.
Yeah.
For the minor league system, looking at what I've seen a lot of Inland Empire this year multiple times, and we talked at the top of the show. Right now, worst record in the California League. It's been a tough year across the board with the Angels minor league farm system. Honestly, the easy answer is pitching. So, I know we're beating a dead horse on this episode. It is pitching. If I had to go contrarian, God, there's a lot of great infielders at the lower levels of the Angels farm system. And we're talking Inland Empire and Tri-Cities that have been top 30 prospects in recent years, but have fallen off the curve. And we have not seen much of them recently. I would say if I had to throw average stat line out there, they're probably batting somewhere between 210 and 235, single digit home runs, and between 20 and 33 RBIs. That's not going to play when you're trying to be in this system. And you've already been in the minor league system now since, let's say, 2022, 2023. So this is probably what, your third full season in minor league ball, and you haven't really made those jumps. Or we talk about it all the time, the Angels going from Double-A to the majors. Well, we'll see some guys sometimes in the minor league level. They'll go from high A to Triple-A to fill in a need briefly, and then get dropped all the way back down to Single-A. There is really no foremented plan. So I would say through the Angels minor league farm system, I want to see more of a concrete plan with the infielders. There's been a lot of them that have come through. I'll think of some names off the top of my head, like Adrian Placencia, Aurel Vera. They were on the 66ers in 2023. Cole Fontenelle, who had that massive knee injury last year at Rocket City, he's come back. This year might be a little bit of a pass year to come back from that, what thought to be a career-ending, basically knee blowout situation. You have all these guys at times that can really swing the bat really, really well. But consistency is right now not a part. And I think, as we agree, it's all about the development. I don't know if it's coaching, training, mental side. Again, Angels could use help everywhere. And I could throw this to the mix. After Ohapi and d'Arnaud right now, who's the next catcher?
Yeah. I don't think it's not even Ohapi. For me, it's not even Ohapi. Ohapi's done, in my opinion.
Really?
He's just showing more and more. I wasn't big on him early in the year. Everyone kept telling me, "Oh, look at all the home runs." I'm like, "Great," but he's still calling a shitty game. Every time he goes out there and catches, it's a shitty game behind the dish, or the pitcher gets shelled. Something's off. Today, pretty shitty game. Yeah, I'm just nothing. I mean, I love the guy. Don't get me wrong. I want this guy to be successful, but there's something about it when he's out there. The command of these pitchers just goes straight down. The presence of the pitcher, they shrink on that mound, and I don't like it. Whereas d'Arnaud comes out, takes a little bit more control of the game, pulls those guys in the side in the dugout, hits a little bit better, puts the bat on ball. I think while Hoppy's so focused on offense, he's missing the defense, and then all of a sudden frustration comes on defense, and his offense goes even further down in production.
Yeah, and I think a lot of things with Logan O'Hoppe right now, and I've talked about this with other people, and I didn't really start recognizing this until this season, not just with the Angels, but across Major League Baseball and even minor league baseball. Catchers nowadays are doing what I call the one knee positioning. They have one knee down. I will put the disclaimer. I was never a catcher. I was way too skinny and way too short. I would have been broken like a toothpick very quickly. Like, even in T-ball, I would have been dead. I wouldn't be here right now. I'm not in favor of this. I think it's a very bad technical behind the plate message to a lot of these catchers nowadays. And I've seen it. The amount of pass balls in the dirt, you are not in proper positioning to do the right things to keep balls in front of you. And I don't know who started the trend or who is continuing it. I am not a fan of it whatsoever.
I agree 100%. And d'Arnaud showed us last night, even as good defensively he is, that one knee, strike three, ricochets off of him because his body's not square. He goes to block it, his body's opened up, and they went behind him. But yeah, no, you're losing Edward Cuero was a huge loss overall, organizationally.
And you can look up and down right now this Angel farm system, and the number one catcher in AAA right now, you have Chad Wallach and Roberto something, again, who? I think the bet in the Angels top 30 prospects right now, the best catching prospect is at Inland Empire. And I believe he's just at the ripe age of 19, just turned 20. And it's not, this isn't, Hoppy, you have 2 years to figure it out. Or, like when it comes to his contract, we're either going to give it to you or we don't. The Angels do have, I will misspeak a little bit. They have three catchers in the top 15. Juan Flores, he is currently catching with the Tri-City Dust Devils this year at the high level, batting a very strong 171. Okay.
Yeah.
With 3 home runs and 17 RBIs. Then you have Dario Laverde with the Inland Empire 66ers. Better. 233 average, 315 on base, 304 slug, and a grand total of 3 home runs and 30 RBIs. And then last but not least, Gabriel Davalio. I'm probably mispronouncing that. He is projected to come to Major League Baseball in the year 2030. He's currently in his first year of the Dominican Southern League, but he is batting .301 at the very ripe age of 17.
Yeah. It's
chew on that one for you.
It's and for everyone who wants to sell, I'm not against it, but when you smell desperation, you're not willing to pay very much. So that's the other thing I like to keep in mind, like especially dealing with minor leaguers. We need some good prospects back if we're going to trade these guys away, but we're desperate at the same time. Yeah, maybe the Padres are willing to give up top prospects and all that stuff, but they're not going to give us Ethan Salas.
Nope. And I saw Luis Campusano play firsthand. Great minor leaguer. I kind of relate him a little bit to that Brandon Wood, where maybe it's just a different situation in San Diego, but I wouldn't be like, oh, let's go trade Taylor Ward to San Diego and have a package surrounding Campusano.
Yeah.
Again, what at this point, if you're really, really sold on O'Hoppe and you want him to be the future, what message does that send to him, whose contract is coming up? And then you have d'Arnaud. I talked to Todd when we were on the postgame show last night with Todd. I said d'Arnaud should be re-signed.
Yeah.
I like him as a veteran catcher to be on this roster. He's proven well more than maybe a Chad Wallach or a Kurt Suzuki or a Max Stassi in that sense. I think he's been the best veteran present catcher that we have of recent years.
Yeah.
But when the farm system looks as depleted as I have described here tonight, something has to change. And I don't know when. I do not know how. But it's going to have to happen at some point, and it may get a little ugly.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
But, Rob, you're amazing. Thank you for coming on the show tonight. This is exactly what we wanted to preview this year's MLB draft, which is Sunday, July 13th, live from Atlanta, Georgia, host of the MLB All-Star Game. The Angels just have one All-Star this year, and it's Yusei Kikuchi, Adele robbed, maybe Reed Detmers robbed as well. Mike Trout was robbed by the voting committee to not get into the starting lineup. So however you want to look at it, maybe Zach Neto was robbed in some sort. Everybody can make an argument. But this is the Angels Minor League Report with yours truly, Dominic Lorenzo Catella Chronicles. That is Rob, the utility filler here at Halos in the Infield, but he's one of us. We love him. 714 Tickets, Bruheim, the OC Dugout, and Max Market Pros, all sponsoring us here this season. Click the like button. YouTube, X, Instagram, however you get your podcast, you guys know what to do. Just figure it out and have a great time. Rob, your invitation will always be outstanding here on the show. Come back whenever you want. And
I would love to.
We can either cheer Angels baseball or the minor league, or if we have to get a little ugly, we can get a little ugly. It's fine.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Absolutely. Well, for everybody watching along, we will be back with another episode next week. Todd will be guesting on the show because we will have the MLB draft recap to see who the Angels actually did select. Perry Manassian, it's your move. Time to make it happen. The Angels looking to make the future of tomorrow, not today, but Sunday. And the Angels looking to get back to 500 before the All-Star break on Sunday. Until then, I'm Dominic. That's Rob. You know how it goes. Be happy, be healthy, go Angels. And we'll see you next time on the Angels Minor League Report.
Catch it all on the